Okay. Greetings. Greetings. Yeah, I didn't do this yesterday and it feels like it was a lot longer than just like 48 hours, but here I am. I'm pretty snappy right now in my personal life and deeply affected by I'm deeply affected by what's going on in the world right now. Is I think a lot of people are. In my personal life, I am very opinionated. Um, so here we are. We will see see what comes out. So for the purposes of this video, it really we're going to talk about decision making. Very practical. And so there's a couple considerations. So one of the things I'm going to read through the exercise. We're on page 240 and in Six Hub techniques and exercises. And just as a reminder, like Six Hub is about like vision that has to do with like visioneering a future. And decisions are so important. And this is something that with the negotiation and conflict, that section is having been one of the first things that came forward as like a teachable module with TPM, like out in the in my life with TPM out in the world. That the reason it's important is that to the extent that it's possible, the way that we shape our lives in terms of the decisions we make and how we negotiate for better terms for the things we have really impacts our ability to create more stability. It like create the structure of our lives, which is very first hub forward. But the importance of it, because it's like I can imagine that to some folks it might even seem like it's a little bit out of place, where it's like, why are we talking about how to negotiate for things? And the reason is that we're negotiating to give ourselves terms that support having greater peace. Whatever the thing is that you want, is that you're negotiating terms for in everything. So it's like the less something costs means like the less commitment and like overhead you have. So if you're negotiating down a cost, you're negotiating like in a sense greater peace for yourself. Deciding not The negotiation of deciding not to do something, not to purchase something, not to move forward with something is also a way to reduce overhead. But ultimately, it's like if you're negotiating for a job, it's like the conditions of like, of how much vacation time you have, like what are the expectations around, like the existing in an office and showing up, and what is the like what to what extent you can negotiate for the terms of your life. So, one of the something I think that's important with TPM is that, and just in general, is that, and even negotiating to make more money effectively, negotiating to get raises, negotiating, just because the more that we have these freedoms, the more that we like, the more capacity, it's creating capacity, actually. It's creating capacity. Because if we are, and I want to be careful about this, is not being a judgment for anybody who's like not in the position to have greater freedoms, because the ability to negotiate is also, kind of a place of privilege. Um, but the point being that to have space for this practice, it does require, especially like, if in a very practical way, it does require that you have more space. And so is it like psychological space? Is it actual time? As it's all, it exists in time, but the strain of being worried about finances, the strain of time commitments that are, like, very constrictive or are, crushing. And a big thing is actually energy commitment. So, the expending energy into things that exhaust, because time is a weird thing, because people, a lot of people are like, "I don't have time," but they spend a lot of time in, restoration practices, like, kind of watching, like, Netflix and TV and stuff, and, on the screens, like, and this isn't a judgment, I'm just kind of pointing this out, that negotiation and decision making, like, the decisions we make, it seems sometimes, because there's tension in these moments, that we wanna avoid that tension. So, as a result, we concede to terms that are net negative for this very this, like, kind of this environment that we're trying to create for ourselves, which is, like, being more optimized, is, like, the discomfort of, or the fear of not getting what you want anyway. Um, and even with decision making, there can be a fear of wanting something, and the fear being that I could never get it anyway, so it just create heartbreak for me to just, like, never get it. And so this is another thing, back to being comfortable with negative feelings. The Because, one of the things that, sort of this came up, is, like, how I've, like, kind of an immunity for embarrassment. And, like, just part of it has to do with the fact that it's kinda like, okay. And so one of the things is that, the fear of disappointment, and how bad that would feel, and then if you trace that back, that the disappointment is gonna be some kind of validation that you didn't deserve it anyway. You do deserve it. It's just like, this happens. These things happen. Like, sometimes you don't get what you want. And it's kind of good toning to experience really trying for something and it not working out. Because there isn't really, you really can't search for too many. I've tried to find examples of things where you, like, really try for something, don't get it, and there isn't a net positive outcome in terms of, and we'll get into this with chapter 12, which is, like, who you become in the process of building or creating or trying. It's like you learn who you are, you see who you are, and it's like, if the external outcomes are just never going to be reliable indicators, because they have so much to do with, like, linking in with where other people are at in a moment, you know? I used to have this thing, it's kind of a cringy, but when I was younger, and, I'd, like, really hoped that if I was, like, physically attractive enough, that it would, like, really, solve all my problems, because then people would be willing to put up with, like, break through my walls and, love me, because it would just be impossible not to love somebody if they were prettier, kind of thing. And it was just a whole construct. I had a whole construct around this where I put a lot of this. And I remember, like, on days, so okay, actually I went out and I did this thing for, like, a month in the desert, where I only drank this, like, super low glycemic green juice. It doesn't exist anymore, this thing, but it's, and you just all day you do these, like, really bizarro treatments, like jumping up and down on a trampoline while, like, with a like, taking in oxygen, and, like, sitting in an ozone egg. It's like putting ozone, and then, like, amethyst mats, and, like, just crazy shit, and, like, a million supplements, and colonics, and this is, like, in 2010? Feels like, and it's, like, wild, and the people who were there were wild. That's a whole other kind of funny story in terms of, like, how many sort of people of note were at this place, that was, supposed to be spiritual? But anyway, like, when I came home, it was like, there was this, like, quality that I had, which was like, like, very, like, captivating, because I was like, and it was it couldn't be maintained, um, but which was really frustrating for me, because I was like, "I like this." My friends were just like, "I can't stop staring into your whatever." Um, And I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna lose this," and knew it was impossible not to. Because the other thing too is you're out of the world, so coming back into the world, like, you need some grounding food and things to, like, actually be able to exist because it's very, like, spacey. It's very, yeah, what's the word I'm looking for? It's just it's very, like, not, like, of the physical, like, emphasis. But anyway, and the thing is that, I thought, "Oh my god," when I walk down the street, it's like, I'm gonna finally be able to experience this kind of thing where everybody wants a piece of this extraordinary creature. And it's just one of the things is that some people are just like, everyone's in their own shit, and it's like, you just meet the people that are in a place to see you. Like, it's not you. Like, you can't, like, the thing of, like, breaking through somebody's own storyline. Like, they could be going through something terrible. They could be madly, like, fixated on, like, who knows? And whatever's going on. They could be grieving. They could be, and the thing where it's like, "Oh my gosh," like, so I don't know, I'm going with that. It's nuts. That's crazy. But yeah, it's more like that the internal validation is really like experiencing this as like inner versus waiting for others to tell you that yeah, external validation is like really tough because it's absolutely you're calibrating off of like unknown fulcrums, like people's where people are at with stuff. You can't, so there's that. Okay, anyway, let's get into this. So, a couple things for decision making. So, one of the things with I was looking at the exercise that I put in the book is different than what I used to teach in the Parinama in-person classes. Mostly the reason I chose this is these exercises, one of the things was I picked things that were really accessible, but if I'm being honest, like one of the primary things is I was picking things that were that I could write. It's like writing instructional stuff is like not easy. Like writing something that I didn't plan on providing illustrations for. So, just like I chose something that I was like, I think this could kind of get the job done. So the decision making exercise that was in the Parinama in-person class it's actually not that complicated. I just really couldn't figure out how to write about it. So here we are with this one. So for decision making, I know that I'm going to read into this. I'm going to go through it. This is an exercise. It's practical. And part of it is like it really helps with having, let's say, so it starts with having something you're trying to solve. So to begin with, and if I'm being honest, I don't really like I was thinking, I was like, I'll do one with you, and I'm not really at a crossroads on anything right now. Um, but to the point, it really like so it's starting out, it's like what should I do? Kind of, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? Should I take this job? Should I have this conversation? Well, like whatever. Um and this decision making, keep in mind, is not this is post arriving at some notion of what your options are. So part of decision making, I don't even know if I'm gonna spoiler this by talking about something that's in here already. I probably am not. But when we're talking about, like, the library, we're talking about advice giving, we're talking about, like, this part of what we're doing, like, part of decision making is information collection, and people mistake information collection as being, like, they're being given, like, a singular piece of advice, or they're giving a singular piece of advice that's like, someone came to me with a problem, so now I'm, like, giving them the thing they're supposed to do. So people get, like, really, like, roped into that bullshit. Um, which is yeah, look, the thing is when somebody comes to talk to you about a problem or something they're trying to solve. It's like the pressure of providing, like, it's like, I need, it's like, let go of that and just kind of let what arises with what information, and really hope and slash know that the person that you're talking to, or for you, if you're the receiver, is collecting variations on the theme of what they're trying to work out. And so, people can just stay in this process of expecting somebody to actually have the full answer for them. But decision making is when you do that final step where you make that decision. So there's it really, really common. It's interesting to me how uncommon it is that people that this is discussed, like the steps of decision making, which is part of it is just talking to people about what options are. Like, if you had this situation, what would you do? You know, like the idea that giving advice is like a thing, because first of all, it's like telling somebody to do something that you're not willing to take, or you're really not willing to take the consequences for. And and the thing is, like, when people don't do it, don't do the advice, people feel like, oh my gosh, I just gave you this great advice and it's the right thing to do. It's like, if they're not doing it, it's not the right thing to do for them. It's the right thing for you to do in the context of what you understand about their situation. And then the other thing is, like, they do it and it doesn't work out. And once again, here we have a thing where it's like, are you willing to take, like, assume the responsibility for those consequences? No. So being offended that somebody doesn't take your advice is that kind of energy. It's like, whatever. And then the other thing is that is that they do it, and they have great success, but it's theirs. And this is the thing, I think, where there can be some confusion, where people think like, wait, they did the thing I told them to do. They had great success. Why am I not being, so why isn't there a parade for me? And, one of the things, so I mean, like, I guess one of the points would be to become, also as an inside job thing, is that leadership, the idea that leadership is about receiving gratitude and praise, rather than being in an integrity that is capable of being able to, um, that's, yeah, being able to be just, I'm going to put it, I don't have the right words for it, but to be able to be in an integrity that's existing as, like, the manner of your true self, because it's nice, like, I really appreciate it, I love it, I love hearing from people, but it's not a validation. It's just is, and it's theirs. When somebody takes something, it's like, it's just words, me being like, hey, I did this, yappy yappy yappy, and then they actually do something, the, like, high value of actually of action and putting something, into, like, that's theirs. It's not yours. It's, as an advice giver. But so, to the point of decision making, there's this point of, like, okay, gathering information. Next point is back to this manner of, like, a decision, or even a negotiation, a conflict. It's tension. It's a point of tension. And in that tension exists because there's the giving up of what's familiar for something that is unfamiliar. And in that particular tension, if the foundation of, like, First Hub trust and sensibility isn't there, this is where, like, lower hubs really come in, is with like, really, like a lower capacity here, and foundation. The thing is that that's just going to pull really hard, is the fear of change without the, like, notion of, like, trust and stability and knowingness, and like the connection to your own power and the feeling of, like, being able to exist in autonomy. It's just going to kind of, like, rationalize a lower risk the lower risk option, which is, like, remain with the status quo or not do anything. And so one of the ways to work with this is considering the term of the outcome. So, oftentimes, there's, like, a thing of, like, okay, but then, if I start the new job, I'm gonna have to, like, change my commute. I really like my routine in the morning. Um, I'm just trying to think of some other examples. Like, it's like, hey, at least I know everybody. I'm gonna miss this person. And if you're it's like that's a very short like that's like in the short term, which is kind of like, okay, well, in the short term, this can be hard. In the long term, if you think out a year and you go, well, if I stay here, um, I'm not going to be developing any skills. I felt really, I felt really stagnant. What I'm rolling the dice on is a chance to grow. So making my decision, I want to figure out more about like where. So maybe this new job offers opportunities for me to learn new skills, to be challenged more. Thinking about, so in terms of the decision making, the end game of like, okay, what's the larger end game here about like what I want out of this, and in a bigger picture for my life. And just respecting the fact that it's like, yeah, you're gonna lose this stuff and lose the familiarity, but also the thing about like, okay, am I gonna be able to live with the fact that I spend another year? It's like the familiar becomes like very magnetic, right? In the tension, where it's like all of a sudden that takes up all the airspace. Whereas like when there isn't the risk, it's like pea shape, pea size, and like the kind of like drudgery is takes up, so it's kind of like it's interesting to watch that happen. Okay, so decision making. So now you have a decision to make, right? Um, so let's talk about it. I'm going to start reading and then I'm going to talk more on the exercise. So decision making, intuition doesn't work particularly well when we're anxious or stressed. Yeah, and that's why. What I just talked about is why. Because anxiety and stress is going to like have that forcing function towards the kind of short term thing of like trying to remediate or solve for the strain on the comfort and the stability. So clear decision making gets hijacked when our nervous system isn't calm. So activation of unconscious survival reflexes interferes with accessing deeper layers of the subconscious. So before you turn to intuition to help decide, evaluate how physically and mentally safe you feel, and if necessary, calm your nervous system with first hub exercises like grounding. So, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, spending some time outside is kind of, like touching grass, take your shoes off, put your feet on the ground, hang out for 20 minutes. I hugged a tree the other day and I was like, yeah, this is a thing. I get why this became zeitgeisted itself into something people talk about. It's real. It is real. There's something there. So intuition often provides inconvenient information, and following it can push us outside of our comfort zone and leave us second guessing ourselves about leaving a relationship, taking a new job, moving to a new city, or taking any kind of risk. The right choice may be a little uncomfortable, feels right, but you can also introduce short-term it feels right, but can also introduce short-term difficulty into our lives, right? All right, a little spoilery, but I think like my take was a little bit of a different angle on it. So, okay, so change can be tricky, and relying completely on cognitive reasoning for decision making can lead us to overwhelm or to make safe short-term choices that take us off a better long-term course. Okay, yep, consistent. So change can be tricky. I'm going to repeat that. Change can be tricky, and relying completely on cognitive reasoning for decision making can lead us to overwhelm or to make safe short-term choices that take us off a better long-term course. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Naturally, there's plenty of nuance, and in cases where your immediate physical safety is concerned, acting reflexively in your best protection, such as entering a room that doesn't feel right or getting the sense that someone is a creep. Yeah, Yeah, I feel like I didn't read that right. I'm like, so naturally there's plenty of nuance, and in cases where your immediate physical safety is concerned, acting reflexively is your best protection, such as entering a room that doesn't feel right or getting the sense that someone is a creep. I'm not sure why that's in there. I love it, but I don't know. It feels like an apology for something that doesn't need to be apologized for. Oh, maybe okay, I get it. So kind of I think what I'm saying here is like I'm trying to say like being aware, but like using your intuition, your sensibilities around um physical safety isn't like a full on like don't do that. It's like yeah, okay. Yeah. Like yeah, because this kind of thing about making a decision with a longer term outcome is doesn't mean completely negating, yeah, safety. Yeah, okay, I like it. Okay, here we go. Why am I it's like trying to figure out how to I don't look at myself that much when I'm doing this. The angle is like leaves a little bit to be desired, but hopefully you didn't come here for the beauty contest. Who am I competing with? I can't find anybody. My beauty contest competitor. I'm trying to find a face. Next contestant. Okay. Nope. Okay. All right. What was that? All right. The somatic pendulum. Okay. So, okay, I'm gonna read the first section, and then we're gonna talk about a little bit about it. So, the somatic pendulum. So pendulums. I wish I had a little swingy thing here. Is when you hold, it's like used in like witchcraft and stuff. You go into like a witch shop in Salem, and they sell these where you have the thing that's hanging on the chain. It's like usually a little pointy thing, and then there's like a mat that says yes, no, whatever, and you hold it just stationary, and it starts swinging around, and then it kind of does it says yes or no, so you ask it a question. So maybe get one of those too if you really want to make this a practice. um and that because the thing that'll happen is that it'll be swinging, and then all of a sudden it'll start going wee wee, and maybe you've probably already done a pendulum. What am I talking about? Or you haven't, whatever, and that wasn't a really great description. um okay, somatic pendulum. Ooh, ooh. Okay. The sway test, as described in chiropractor Bradley Nelson's The Emotion Code, uses your body to answer questions. I was really can I just say something that's kind of like I really was he's like Dr. Bradley Nelson, but he's a chiropractor. That's really like so in the researching of this that I read, like over 300 books and all these like all I read a lot. I read a lot blah blah blah. Um like one of the things is like the strong like the representation of like, well, I'm Dr. So and so, and like really drafting off the notion that it's MD. It's real like and like that there's a bit of that. It's kind of has like and so I don't know. I don't know if I'd point to him on that, but it's just for whatever reason when somebody's a chiropractor, I'm like, that's different than what you're implying. Okay. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so all right, so this weight test as described in chiropractor Bradley Nelson's The Emotion Code uses your body to answer questions. It's a simple technique using the subconscious and can offer surprisingly accurate answers to your questions. First, make sure you're hydrated and feeling relatively calm and stable. Then stand with both feet planted on the ground. And for folks who can't if that's not an accessible option, this can also be done while sitting at the edge of your seat and giving your body the range of motion to lean forward and backward. Now, that for accessibility, I would, if possible, doing this standing. Now, one of the things about this is that, standing still, is something that's sort of relative. So if you stand, no matter how strong you are, you will notice that there is like a subtle kind of rhythm in your body. So if you like really are like, I'm standing still, because most of the time you're moving, you're kind of working through this, like this that's kind of moving through you. But if you stand still with both your feet planted, one of the things you can tune into this like sort of subtle kind of like micro undulation. And the stronger you get, and one of the things with parinama is that, and the charging and the discharging is that the stronger that you get, the more subtle you need to be in terms of finding like the tremor and even this, because sometimes strength can like create rigidity because it's like, but anyway, but this is like, so first of all, it's like thinking like just, if the natural kind of swaying. So to stand, so the starting out where you're just standing. And before anything, it's just like really tuning into that. I can even feel it right now just sitting here. So calibrate. So there's two things, calibrate and questions, and then we're going to wrap this up. So begin with a sincere request. So asking your personal source of truth. So this can be higher power, the universe, or however you connect with your deepest integrity to support you in seeking insight. So part of this is just seeking, is really speaking to like what you consider to be integrity, and asking that to like communicate with you, to get as clear a line as possible with that. So start by noticing the subtle movements of your postural muscles as they constantly work through micro corrections to create balance. It's like kind of a scientific way. Is that what's happening? I don't know. It feels kind of a little more magical. So like a plant reacting to light, we can lean towards positive answers and lean back from negative ones. So leaning forward is yes, and leaning back is no. Try saying, my name is, insert your name, and observe how you lean. And then use a name that is not yours, saying, my name is, insert another name, and observe how your body responds. Be patient, as it can take 10 to 20 seconds to tune into this. Increase the strength of the exercise by increasing the negativity and the positivity of the words. For example, the word war and the positivity of the words, increasing the negativity. For example, use the word and consider its horrors, and then notice any sway in your body. Or occupation. Use occupation. Colonization. And just kind of watch and see, kind of you sort of tuning that. So it's like, that's like, psh, psh. So try thinking of someone you love and fill your heart with gratitude, and then test for sway with a stronger positive. It's really weird. It's like, it's actually happening while I'm sitting here. I can feel it. Whew. Wow, that's wild. That is wild. If you're cynical about this, I respect that. I respect it. But my direct experience right now, I'm like, geez, this really is kind of a thing. My feet aren't even on the ground. Actually, I have my feet up right now. So your subconscious mind will communicate by swaying your body like a pendulum in a yes, forward leaning, or no, backwards leaning? Ooh, it's so weird. So once you've calibrated, ask yourself questions and allow the sway to respond. How you ask a question makes a difference. For example, you could ask, is this job okay for right now? And get a yes. Or you could ask, is this the best job for me right now? And get a no. Actually, got a yes for both of those. So weird. But I think that actually speaks to like kind of even what's like I was talking about earlier, which is that you're okay right now. Is this job okay for now? Yeah. It's interesting because one of the things I'm feeling right now is that it's like theoretically you could kind of be saying like I'm going back and forth, but there's a poom, poom. There's a sense of being like pushed. It's like, listen, it's boop. Okay. Greater specificity can change the answer. Oftentimes, is this okay? Versus, is this the best? Produce different answers. Yeah. So, okay. We had a little discussion, a little chat about decision making. Any questions? If you want to point out that you think it's like a charlatan practice, please put it in the comments. It's nuts. I get it. I get it. I'm just not. I don't know. I'm such a like. Yeah. I guess the term is skeptic. It literally I just had to I got kind of like a yes to skeptic. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. I think that's all anybody can take for a day. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. So that is a wrap for this. So okay. So thank you if you have made it through this. Any comments I'll answer. I really appreciate any interaction with us, any likes. We've got some new subscribers, which is really exciting to see. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love you. I love that. I just love it. I love you. I love you. It's just that if we are, yeah, there's a connection on this. It's just really like, really delightful. And yeah. Okay. So yeah, and so any comments, like put anything in the comments. I love likes and of course, if whatever but if you have something if you have something that you want to reach out about, if you have a question or a comment or whatever, you can, and you don't want to put it in the comments, which is very common actually, is DM me on at the Parinama Method on Instagram, and I'll respond to you at, like within a reasonable time frame. It really helps me, my own process and my own practice. It's really just whatever is on your mind. I'm not. It really helps me to see other takes on this. And I mean, I'm a little bit of a broken, I'm a lot of bit of a broken record here, which is that this is a discussion, works a lot better, but this is just the option that exists right now, is to do it this way. So it's how it's being done, but future state, looking forward to it. And it's becoming more clear to me about how this is coming through. Because even though for the folks who are here that watch these, there's it's kind of dispersed, the different kind of camps of people of how they're interacting with this, and it's just in different places in different ways, and it's really yeah, it's really wonderful to just be a part of it, to just be, like, able to see people do incredible things. So, anyway, I'm sending you lots of love, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Alright, bye for now.